Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Journey Beyond podcast. Our mission has always been to help guide you through the depths of self-discovery and transformation. And today, we're about to embark on a journey that will redefine what it means to truly push one's limits. In our world of comfort and convenience, it's rare to find individuals who willingly tread the path of extreme challenge and test the boundaries of human potential. Today's guest is one such individual. I'm thrilled to introduce Michael M. Putu, an occupational psychologist, a formidable hybrid athlete, and arguably one of the most mentally resilient souls I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. His spirit embodies that of a warrior, proving that the human spirit is unbreakable. In today's episode, we are diving deep into the mind of a mental athlete, covering topics such as mental resilience and why it is more important than ever to build inner strength. We are diving into habits, past experiences that shaped Michael into who he is today, and the incredible story of his first 100-kilometer ultramarathon that brought him to his absolute limits. So with this being said, I hope you will enjoy today's episode. And if you haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button as we are introducing new, exciting interviews every single week. And now, let's dive deep into today's episode.
And we are live. My man, the myth, the legends, Mr. Michael M. Putu. It's an absolute pleasure having you on today's episode of the Journey Beyond podcast. I was just about to say another podcast name, but I guess that's not up to date anymore. It's an absolute pleasure on having you on today's episode. You're actually the second guest speaker that I'm bringing up. You know, we know each other for quite a while. We go back quite a while. How are you doing, my man?
Well, thank you, bro, man. It's an honor, pleasure to hop on your podcast, and I'm doing good overall. Just came back from the gym, just like you, and just ready to get it on. Let's go.
Yeah, man. I sent him a message like 3 hours ago saying like, okay, man, I know we scheduled a call for like 2:00, but to be in the right state, I think I need to hit the gym first. And I think you took that advice as well, and you did the same thing. So now we're here, now we're ready, you know, mentally sharp as always. And I'm super excited to be talking with you today because, I mean, we go back quite a while. We know each other already for a couple of years now. And we've been already on each other's podcast over the last couple of years, multiple times. And you know what I love about you and what I love, like why I love talking to you is like one of my favorite topics of all, next to the topic of authenticity, which is like a topic very close to my heart because just over the last couple of years, I've been learning a lot of myself, like through that entire, you know, change that has been happening in the world. Mental resilience is probably one of my absolute favorite topics to talk about because I guess for yourself and for me, we go back like until 2016, I would even say 2017, when we were in contact with some incredible American guys, such as Luke Hessler, such as Jamie Chirio, such as Jukes, Daniel, and so on, Pericles. And we actually started back then already, being all youngsters, being, you know, in German, you say green behind your ears, like having no plan of life. But getting into this environment that was constantly on a daily basis drilling us to improve ourselves, constantly having accountability partners, accountability groups, and just crafting our mind and forging it into that person that we are today. And I think we can look back and be pretty proud of ourselves, right? So that's like something that I love looking back to. I guess you do too. But for the people that don't know you, Michael, and we're going to get into your story and about, you know, who you are. We like to call him here in Luxembourg the Luxembourgish David Goggins. So that's already a little implication on today's topic. No, but he's really embodying that spirit of a warrior, that spirit of just someone who is so mentally resilient and has been going through so much. Yeah, Michael, tell the audience and tell, you know, us a little bit about yourself. Where are you coming from? And a little bit about your background.
Sure, man. Sure. Thank you, man. It's quite humbling. How would I describe myself in a few words? I mean, besides saying that I'm just a young 28-year-old man who's striving for greatness and making sure that he can max out his life and have an impact on those around him. I'm a work psychologist, occupational psychologist. I love sports. I enjoy working out, whether it is going to the gym, calisthenics, running. I used to play basketball as well at a pretty decent level. And yeah, I mean, just like you mentioned before, we both had we both have a podcast or had a podcast. For you, it was your previous one, your first one that I had the chance to already hop on. And I still have my own podcast that I've put on hold for about a year. But yeah, I'm also founder and a host of a podcast. And yeah, I just as far as what we're gonna get into today, like the mental resilience part, the discipline, yeah, mental fortitude and daily habits, behaviors, and actions. It's quite funny as far as the timing right now, like the end of October, because just over 6 years ago, I got introduced to the book, The Compound Effect from Darren Hardy, from our guy, our brother, David Paulus. And yeah, we actually got to know each other about, I think it was in 2017. And I've been applying the principles of that book for the past 6 years. Like the 6-year anniversary was just 1 or 2 weeks ago. So there we go.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I mean, you're being very humble over here. Yeah, you haven't touched base on any part, on any part about yourself. But I guess being an occupational psychologist is your field that you've been studying and that you're working in currently, right? Is like give a little like insight into what an occupational psychologist does exactly, because I guess it plays along as well. Like it's a great implicator for what you've been doing before and what you're doing now, because I guess it touches the topic of mental resilience quite well too, as you do need it in a space of occupational psychology, right? You do need to be mentally quite tough, like strong to be handling what you're doing, right?
Well, it's definitely a big advantage having that background. I hold a master's degree in evaluation and assessment. And right after getting that degree, I got into this job occupation. So, as a work organizational psychologist. And what helped me to get into that was through the studies that I did, like my master's degree was the evaluation of personality traits, the evaluation and assessment of professional competencies and also of learning, and combining that with the current field that I'm in. When you work in an organization, especially a bigger one, where you have a lot of departments and directions and just a big structure, uh, how I would give a brief summary about it is that because in the current organization I'm working in, we are like 5 work psychologists, and our aim is to make sure that we contribute to the development of the organization, whether it is from a well-being standpoint, satisfaction standpoint, efficiency standpoint, and also just uh, management standpoint and leadership skills. And that's pretty much how I could briefly give a summary about it. I don't want to get into the details, but we
100%.
also use like psychometric tests such as personality tests, intelligence tests, concentration tests, leadership tests, and yeah, I mean the like that really goes in depth, that kind of occupation. And I'm really glad that I got this chance and has allowed me to improve my life a lot on a professional level and also on a personal level.
Mm, beautiful to hear. Beautiful to hear. Um, as we're touching on the topic of mental resilience in this episode, and as for you, as I've already mentioned previously or earlier, that you for me are like one of the most inspirational people, like real people that I get to have in front of me, that I get to speak with, that I get to share experiences with, and not just watch over a screen somewhere on the other side of the world. Um, the term mental resilience is being tossed quite often just around, right? I already mentioned in my last episode that nowadays we have a lot of words that are just accumulating around, such as authenticity, mental resilience, mental fortitude, purpose. Those are all such big words, and they have so much power behind them. But I get the feeling that a lot of people, most of the time, they don't really understand what they mean, right? And even they pull them into laughter because they're just being thrown around too much. Yeah, I'm being my authentic self. If you use that word or that sentence every single time in like every five sentences, it's losing its value, right? So given your incredible feats and what you've been learning, what you've been studying, and what you've been doing over the last years or throughout your life, what does how would you personally define mental resilience in your words?
The first thing that comes to my mind is the ability to bounce back in any given situation, context. Because like life in general is just a gray zone. It's not black and white. Good things are gonna happen, bad things may happen as well. We get the entire sauce, we get the entire recipe. There's no way to run away from it. We're all gonna experience some type of pain, suffering, whether it is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And then it's up to everybody to take responsibility for their own lives and make sure that they can get back up every time they get hit. Sometimes it's just a little slap. Sometimes it's a little punch. Sometimes it can be a big hook that can knock you out for a moment. And then you just gotta find your resources, your ways, your strategies to get back up again and again and again.
Mm. So, what are those resources for you?
Ooh, those resources for me, that's one of the reasons why I make sure that I optimize my well being, whether it is from a nutrition standpoint, working out, uh, also optimizing my sleep, which has been one of my weaknesses. But if you have like a warrior body, a strong body, that will help you in every aspects of your life, whether it is at work, privately, uh, all types of ways you can go about it. That's just one thing. So the body, and then the mind, training the mind, whether it is reading books, whether it is listening to podcasts, learning from people who have the kind of tough mind that I would like to emulate or just get into. And the environment is very important as well. So if you're surrounded by people who have a great mindset, who tend to have a more positive mindset, or who just tend to be uh, more resilient or strong minded, it can have an immediate impact on you as well. I think that like many ways to go about it, to work on it, but these are the first things that would come to my mind, I'd say.
Mm. I mean, taking it that personal development is something that you have been involving yourself over the last couple of years, voluntarily and then passionately over the years. Um, I mean, I like to look at things from a perspective of someone who is just getting into that entire world, right? Who has been maybe, going through a certain identity crisis or where he has been unsatisfied with life. I mean, for some people, it happens at a very young age. For some people, it happens quite late. For some people, it happens, unfortunately, due to ignorance, never. They kind of refuse to have that because, the price of progress is pain. So whenever you know that you want to move forward in life, there is a certain barrier that you have to overcome. My question now for you is, would you say that we are living in a society that is making it easy for us to create mental resilience? And if so, and if not, why do you think that is? Or why do you think mental resilience is not something that everyone is naturally born with from a psychological perspective?
I really like how you frame your questions, man. Credit to you for that. So when we talk about mental resilience, first things first, it's something that I'd say is pretty relative because the way you perceive me might be completely different than how someone else would perceive me as far as the mind and its strength, and how I would perceive myself, because I keep on hearing these positive things about me and how I'm strong minded, strong willed, and disciplined. But then I'm looking at myself and I'm like, bruh, this is like nothing. I still still feel like I'm just getting started. I'm at a mediocre level compared to what I know that I could be at. And by comparing myself to people who just bring it to a whole nother level, which, by the way, comparison, it can be the thief of joy, but not really if you know how to leverage it for good, whether it is from a gratitude standpoint or just leveling up yourself. But yeah, nowadays it depends because the world is really big. And let's say if we stay in the West, if we stay in the Western world, my impression, looking around and seeing how people go about their lives, is that we live in a society where mediocrity is often rewarded. And that is something that I got from David Goggins. And David Goggins got this from a speech that a Navy SEAL gave like many years ago. And we have a lot of comfort. Of course, if you look around right now, like the economic state, there are a lot of people struggling. Let's not get it twisted. There are a lot of people who live right around the poverty line, even in the Western world. But just overall, looking at us, all our basic needs are covered, whether it is having roof over our head, food, water, clothes, Wi-Fi, smartphones, laptops. We're really good. And when you're comfortable, when you live in comfort, you can tend to be more complacent, or you just start to create problems which wouldn't even be considered problems in if you were in another life situation. So yeah, I don't like to go to one extreme, but I've seen this tendency of, especially in the West, where a lot of people are getting softer and softer mentally, and like just the few points that I touched on, yeah, could be related to that. That's for sure. So when I get back to your question, as far as is life right now set up in a way how we're currently living, where mental resilience can be built on or not? It's it's pretty subjective. It's pretty subjective. Everyone's dealing with their own battles and challenges, and it's just up to you, like what you do with it. It's tough for me to make like some general statements, but in which direction I'm heading with all the things that like I've touched
100%.
on and talking about.
100%. I think the socioeconomic development over the last century plays a major role in like the the upbringing of newer generations. You always like to say that tough times make strong people, and weak times make, or soft times make weak people, or something like that. I guess as you've said it, we've become way too accustomed to that standard of living that we acquired nowadays, where everything is a luxury and there are no real needs for necessities anymore, or like baseline things. Like nowadays everybody wants the newest iPhone. That's a luxury, man. Like, why don't they buy a Nokia? Because it's not up to date, right? Why do people always go with the newest stuff? Because we live in an age where consumerism has taken overhand. Nowadays what people wear like means, like, says more about that person nowadays than who they truly are. Like that entire fashion culture of, just because I wear X, like brand X, and shoes X, and I wear a chain or a watch of X brand, does that make me a better person? Does that make me like more prestigious in society's like hierarchy? We would say no, but I think that is basically how nowadays is being portrayed. It's not about um, am I able to bring enough food on the table? Like, what do I need to do on a daily basis? Do I need to work on the cornfields? Do I need to work in a coal mine? I mean, how easy we have it, our generation has it nowadays, is the easiest it has ever been in the entire history of mankind. There has never been an easier and more easygoing time as there is right now. And I would say it's getting easier and easier the more it is, because we live in a state of abundance as it is from consumeristic point of view, which is pretty much undermining the idea of where can my potential go, right? Mediocrity, as you said, is being rewarded. And that's exactly it, because that abundance is basically the mediocrity that is now being portrayed. Like Gucci shoes are becoming more and more affordable, that everyone can wear them. So it's that kind of standard of living that we've created. And I think because I mean, what I love doing, I love watching old movies from like the 60s and 70s. Whenever I get bored and I don't know what to watch, I love watching old like Western movies, like the Wild Wild West movies. I love those kind of movies. I don't know the name in English right now. uh, Play Me the Song of Death, something like that. Stream das Lied vom Tod. Those kind of old Western movies, you see men. You see like the manliest men that you could probably see, and whenever they have a dispute, they just solve it right there on the spot, on the streets, life and death situation. I mean, I don't say we need those times back, not at all, because I don't want to be, just because I have an argument with someone, be like going on a life and death situation here. But I guess you know where I'm going at. Like nowadays, we're getting less confrontational and more anonymous in the way we approach certain things. And I believe that the problems that we're having nowadays are much more insignificant, and we value them nowadays as much stronger than they actually are. So I 100% agree with you with what you're saying. It's very subjective. And as well, what I loved about what you said before earlier, because that touched on a point that me and Danny were discussing on last week's episode, on last week's podcast, um, where we talked about identity, right? Is that identity is very subjective. Like it always depends on the person looking at it. Um, it always depends on the perspective that you have of life. And that perspective can be very flawed. Like how people see you and how you see yourself are two different worlds. And I've always had that inner struggle with myself, that I always lacked certain aspects within myself. So I was seeing myself as less than I was. But other people around me, because they saw, he looks fit, he has like cool friends around, they perceived you as that person that is like, wow, he has made it. But then whenever you hear that about yourself, you're like, dude, you have no idea like how I see myself. I recently had that with a very close friend of mine, where I actually broke his reality, because he said like, man, I always viewed you as this person who was like has all his stuff together, and I was like, you have no idea. So yeah, man. So I 100% agree with you. We are our best friends and our worst enemies. Talking about you as I love the word that you used. You sent it to me yesterday, actually, when I was preparing for this podcast. You said hybrid athlete. I know that for you, not only that personal development has played a major role in your development of the self, of your physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, but as well, the physical aspect for you has been something that you have been mastering, that you have been working with so much. I would love to dive into that aspect. First of all, what does hybrid athlete mean?
A hybrid athlete is an athlete who can be an athlete at a in different points of like attention on a high level. So when I think about it, the first two aspects that come to my mind are strength. Let's say like training or calisthenics or just gym, and cardio. Cardio can be running, it can be even just walking at a high level, or any other type of cardio, and just combining that in becoming a well-rounded overall athlete hybrid. So essentially, that's what I got into a few years ago, where um, after I retired from basketball, let's say that I played basketball for uh, a long time. That was my big love. I started at the age of 6, and then I played until the age of 23. And I was very, very fortunate, because I played with teams where I got to play with professional athletes and coaches, and won a few titles in my country. But after that, I just needed something else. I needed something else to compensate that striving for greatness, competition, the pushing yourself, your limits. And then I got into running because I always loved going to the gym, which I also did when I played basketball. I was like, why not combine both and just become a well-rounded, first of all, healthy individual, but also just an athlete. I mean, athlete is a big word because I'm not a professional athlete, like not even close. But yeah, just like being this all-rounder. Yeah, that's how
Mm,
I would define a hybrid athlete. Yeah.
okay. Okay. I mean, I've never heard that word before. So when you said it, I was like, that sounds so cool. I need to bring it up.
Yeah, it's coming more and more. Like you see more and more on YouTube, on podcasts, and I actually got it from Nick Bear, who I've been following for
Mm,
years. Like he's like this guy. He's this motherfucker. He's on a he's on some next level shit. He's an entrepreneur. He's like a hybrid athlete, like we are just talking about. He has done Ironmans, ultramarathons. He's jacked to the grills. He's a monster, and was in the army. Like he was in the Rangers. Like he's done it all, and he's been like a big inspiration for me in that aspect. And David Goggins as well. I mean, many people don't know that, but Goggins, he's an incredible well-rounded athlete. He's not just running, he's done Ironman as well. He had a world record in pull-ups for a moment. So just look at his body. I mean, it speaks for itself. It's not like a skinny runner that you see doing these marathons.
and I think the internet and I think the world and social media for having people like, as you said, David Goggins, Jocko Willick, so many different people that are out there that I just love. Like my feed, I think I literally follow 6 people, and like those 2 that you mentioned are already 2 of those 6, because I just like to transform my experience as like as nurturing as possible. I try to avoid as much bullshit as I can and just have like nurturing things. And whenever I have a moment, like I purposefully go on David Goggins' account and I just look through like 5, 6 videos of him intentionally whenever I have a weak day and a weak moment. Because whenever I feel I sitting on my couch, I'm getting home after a long day at work. I've been working like, I don't know, over hours, 10 hours, been up since like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I'm just exhausted. But I know I have to go to the gym for 2 hours. I know I have to record an episode. I know I have to cut some stuff. I know I have to do some editing, content creation, blah, 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 blah. Eat, train, pray, do my workouts, and so on. I just go like on his bio, on his feed, just literally go through like 4 or 5 videos. And at the 5th video, like listening to the 20th time, get up, motherfucker. You ain't nothing. You ain't nothing. Work. Like, honestly, you just can't. You just can't. Because otherwise, if you shut down your phone after that, I mean, that takes guts to do that after so much like pounding in motivation. It's not for everyone,
Yep.
100%, but I guess that's just how we two, or like we us people in general, we vibe. Um, can you particularly, because you probably know where I'm going at with this, but can you particularly share a moment where your mental resilience has been tested to the absolute limit?
Obviously, it was last year. I decided to sign up for an ultra marathon in my country, and it was a 110-kilometer trail race
Damn.
with about 3,000 meters elevation gain. And honestly, when I signed up for it, just the year before that, I did a 75-kilometer ultra marathon, which was my first official one, and that was already tough. But I wasn't even sure myself if I could get this one done, the
Just
110 kilometers.
just to break it before, you have been doing semi and marathons before, right? This was not like the out of the blue a thing where you said like,
No,
just gonna go for it. Okay, good,
exactly.
good,
Yeah,
good.
since 2019. Like my first marathon was in 2019. Yeah, yeah. So I've been
Cool.
doing it for the past years. And yeah, last year, what a race. Just the day before, I remember that, or just 2 days before, I went to the groceries and I had this moment where it was like, damn, I don't feel ready. I'm not sure if I'm really gonna make it. I had like this doubt creeping in just like 40 hours before the race. But when it started in the middle of the night. I think we started at midnight. when we started, I was just in the zone and I was determined to make it happen, kilometer by kilometer. And it was a lot of fun to begin with. And the community is super supportive, the ultramarathon community. But yeah, throughout the course, let's say around kilometers 57, 60 or 60 plus, um, it was around halftime where I got to get my back and just put out some stuff that I needed, whether it is from a nutrition standpoint. But I also changed my shoes. I changed my shoes because my feet were starting to hurt like very badly. I had to just switch it up. And then I still had like 50 kilometers to go. But I was like, my performance in the first half of the race, I was crushing it. I was crushing. I was probably in the top. I think I was in the top 30 of the entire race. It was absolutely phenomenal. But then from that point going forward, it's the race turned into an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare where uh, if I could summarize that in a few sentences, I had break breaking points which I had not explored in my life before, especially physically. Body just breaking down. My feet were hurting so bad, and after the race, I realized that I actually ran hurt because for weeks before that, I my feet were already hurting, and I thought it was just like some problems with the new shoes that I had. But nah, I actually had an inflammation. It was like plantar fasciitis. So I ran the entire race with plantar fasciitis. At kilometer 80, 85, I was ready to quit. And I'm not a quitter. I don't like to quit because when you quit, it can quickly become a habit. And how you do one thing is can quickly become how you do everything. But I just looked at my phone and I told a few friends that were like waiting for me. I told my father that I'm gonna quit. The pain is just too much. I just can't go on anymore. Sometimes I would just take a few minutes and go on the side of the trail, and I was just sitting on my ass because I was in so much pain and my energy levels were just going crazy. Like for 1 kilometer, I would get some energy back, and then I would be completely crushed. But I had some great support from the participants and also from one of my best friends who finished the race with me the last 13 kilometers, which took me a few hours to get it done. But he was like, he came to the aid station, to the last aid station, and he supported me for the last 13 kilometers. So I finished the race right before it got dark again in 20 hours. But it was an absolute nightmare. And just the way I had to overcome my limitations over and over again. I broke down mentally, nearly emotionally, which I did not, but I was I was really on the edge of it, and physically as well. It's still hard to believe that I got this done with this level of pain and suffering. But yeah, if I may add something to it, is at some point, all the things that you get to learn from personal development, all the inspiration that you get from people like we just mentioned, like David Goggins, Dr. Willing, Nick Bear, all the spiritual stuff, the affirmations, positive self-talk, none of that shit worked. Nothing. Nothing. I tried every mental hack, every mental tool that I got to learn over the past 7, 8 years, and nothing worked. And it was just I just looked it up again yesterday or 2 days ago. This mantra that exists in the US military: embrace the suck. Embrace the suck. This is just temporary. The pain is just temporary. The suffering is just temporary, but the glory is forever. You're just gonna make it through. Embrace it step by step, kilometer by kilometer. Embrace the suck. Of course, without putting yourself in a position where you compromise your health too much, where like you become unconscious, something like that. But that's what it was. It sucked big time, man. It was a nightmare. but super transformative as well after the race. Yeah.
And I guess there the quote again, the price for progress is pain. What did pain teach you in that moment? Because if like walk me through that situation when you say that nothing that you have learned before to prepare you mentally for that game of running has helped in that situation. What did help? What actually brought you forward? What actually enabled you? Because I mean there has to be something. I would love to hear, because I myself I have never done something in that way. I have had other challenges and like maybe similar experiences where I've literally went to my absolute utmost extreme, physically and mentally, but nothing in that direction. So I would love, and maybe some of the listeners right now, walk us through that process. Like what has helped you? What was for you the thing that kept you going, kept you going?
I would say there are a few things. And I think that race helped me to truly discover the pain cave. I've been there before, but never to this level. And I got this from one of my favorite athletes in the world, which is Courtney DeWalter. She is one of the best athletes in the entire world, in my opinion. And she always talks about this pain cave. And you realize once you are in it, it's nobody is coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save you. You can get the support at the aid stations or from other runners, which I got as well, whether it's mental support or some supplements. But when you are in that pain, it is tough to focus on anything else. And one of the things that helped me is, first of all, faith, me believing in a higher power, believing in the universe and God, whatever, however you want to call it. And just the relationship that I have with myself. It's like the fact that I can't let myself down. I just cannot let myself down. And even though I had that moment where I was willing to quit and where I was proud of myself, where I was at peace, um, at just quitting, there was just something more to it. Where the thing is, when you do these kinds of challenges, it's like you see the Mount Everest and you're at the bottom. And when you see that big mountain, you don't even want to start. You procrastinate or you don't even want to start. Or when you start and you see there's so much left and you just quit. And what has helped me, if I if I may talk about one of the tools that helped me, was just what I said before, the compartmentalize the race, just run to the next aid station and then you quit. So you just postpone the quitting. Okay, I'm gonna quit at kilometer 90. Okay, I'm gonna quit at kilometer 95. I'm gonna quit at kilometer 100. And then once you get to that number on your watch, or the number of kilometers that is displayed somewhere, or to the aid station, it's like, nah, come on, I gotta continue. And it's
The
like
ego
really
kicks in.
this, and the ego kicks in, and it's just a step by step, and it's that if I may frame it in the right way, it's that darkness that we all got in ourselves when we talk about the yin and yang, that a little bit the primitive nature of a human. There's something that just there's just a switch, and it's also, I realized that when I was running in the middle of the night when we started, and something happens to you. It's like your senses just become more efficient. You hear all the noises in nature, you hear the animals, and you're just locked in. Like you barely can see anything. Of course, you had the headlamp, but something just is triggered inside of you. And I think that one of the things that helped me was maybe going deep in a way where I was reflecting on maybe all the previous failures, or people talking shit, or all the previous pain that I've been able to, and challenges that I've been able to overcome, and just leveraging this dark side, because it can be used for the bad, of course, for destructive things, but also for constructive things as well. So I think that's one of the things that helped me as well. Now that we talk about it, I haven't really seen it from that perspective, but now I get some flashbacks, and I can feel
That's
it again.
that's what I love about like having questions like these, where you actually get to reiterate your own thought process and maybe actually discover something while you're thinking about it. Um, I 100% agree with you, and I think this is where I want to touch point a little bit, because what I want to provide here is not only insights into, different people's lives, like how they operate and how they work. I mean, if I now look at a David Goggins, he has his own demons inside of him too. Like demons, I mean, I'm taking in like what you just explained, like the dark side of him, his worst critique that is just constantly beating him down. And at this point, I want to make it clear is that you don't need to be someone who is beating yourself down constantly. You can actually love yourself and create mental resilience too. You don't have to be constantly being like, oh, you suck. Oh, you can't do this. Oh, you can't do that. Like that's actually, if we are honest with each other, Michael, it's an unhealthy trait. It's an unhealthy mental trait, because there is
Totally.
some part of ourselves that is lacking that kind of confidence that we give towards each other, that kind of love, appreciation, affection, understanding, affirmation, of actually being in a safe space, right? That's how we are. That's how we were raised, and that's why we use it. So just want to make clear is that just because you have a healthy relationship with yourself doesn't mean you cannot do such things. I guess you take that energy out of different channels, right? Certain people who have maybe like a very positive relationship with themselves, they might not call it the darkness. They might call it the light. They might call it like their happy place where they're like, all right, I have a goal. I want to reach it. I'm just going to do it, right? You have people like that too. But unfortunately, and I touched base on that with Daniel last time, is that we are the result of like years and years and years of crafting experiences, trauma, hurt, pain, big T's, minor T's, whatever you call it, right? And that's who we are. There's pretty much no one that hadn't had any type of traumatic experience in his life. And if, please show them to me, because that's remarkable. But specifically talking now from a point where everybody can somehow create this kind of mindset, because you are literally able, same as you, same as me, we're all able to do the unbelievable and make the impossible possible, but we need a certain type of tool set. So what would you say, how do you train your mind? What are some tools that you do on a daily basis, pre-marathon, post-marathon, even 2019 when you started? Some tools that you implement on a daily basis, things that are your DMOs, your daily methods of operation, your thought processes, that you train your mind to accept pain, to accept this level of difficulty, and that is actually enabling you to do the things that you're doing. What are some of the tools that you have for yourself that you can share? And maybe we can even bounce back and forth, because I guess at this point, everyone has their own kind of ways where they took their information from, learned, but maybe there's a baseline for everything. So please go ahead, man. I'm curious.
Right. I mean, my main tool is what I've mentioned just at the beginning of the podcast, the principles of the compound effect. Like who we are today, or the position we're in today, is also, of course, it can be significantly influenced by outside circumstances, but it's also up to us, our daily habits, our daily behaviors, our daily actions, the little things day to day that compound over time lead to the results that you are in today, especially if you have the mindset of taking responsibility, full responsibility for your own life. And it's that these general personal development statements about getting out of your comfort zone, it's, even for myself, it's not pleasant. It's not always pleasant to seek that discomfort, but I know that when I push that comfort zone, or I just get out of it a little bit more, that's a place where I get to grow and max out that potential. So I think it starts, first of all, it starts with the mindset. It's not with the mentality, with the attitude, with the life approach. Of course, you can use all type of tools, but first start with the attitude that you have towards it. You seek your own challenges. Like nobody can tell you what type of challenges can help you to build this fortitude, this strength, and most people do it naturally, just going through life. Like everybody, like you said, everybody facing their own traumas, challenges, whether it's a relative dying, whether it's failing an exam, whether it's losing money, whether it's a disease or getting injured. And one of the messages that I would like to share is that I genuinely believe that most people really drastically underestimate how much they're capable of, how strong they are mentally, and just the ability that they have to overcome any type of challenges. Maybe as far as tools, if I could go a little bit more into it, yeah, the compound effect. I like to track my day to day life, my weekly life. I like to have a yearly assessment of myself where I just check the different aspects of my life, whether it is professionally, relationship wise, health, business. Like I have like the 7, 8 aspects that I also find that you can also find in the book, The Compound Effect. And maybe Tim, if you know, like one of the things that I apply that I don't, that's not really flashing across my mind right now, feel free to get into it. But it's when we talk about these things, it's one of the things that bothers me is that we overcomplicate everything, and we always looking for the nugget, the secret, the key, and a lot of things where we already know what we're supposed to be doing. It's just that we we please ourselves with this temporary pleasure of mental masturbation and try to look for sources that validate what we already know or what we want to hear. And yeah, man, I mean, if you have right now another idea, feel free to mention it because right now I'm just in another zone.
100%. But first of all, I have to say, I think you're giving me so much motivation again to read The Compound Effect. I think you've mentioned it within the last hour at least like 6 times. And it, like something that I highly, highly admire and respect about you is your consistency on your daily methods of operation. I think most of people listening right now, all of you don't really know. Like when, as I mentioned in the beginning, we started off in like 2017 with a group of close friends here in Luxembourg, a group called Superhumans, where we tracked our DMOs, our daily methods of operation, on a day to day basis, where we wrote down things on the physical, on the mental, on the business, and emotional side or spiritual side, however you want to take it. And we were tracking it daily. So there was a daily accountability group where you had to post in the stuff that you did. I kid you not, I think we started off in full motivation with at least like 25 members in it, or like 20 members at a certain point, right? And slowly over the months and slowly over the years, even because it started in 2017, that's like 6.5 years by now, coming close to 7. Keep in mind that this group shrank and shrank and shrank and got closer. And the real ones, or like some people that started off, me including, I'm not saying I was one of the OGs. You know, it took me a couple of years longer than that to realize and find my own power. But for just for every single one of you that just listened to what Michael said about, yeah, he likes to track his daily actions. Michael has been the only person in that entire group. I think if that group would still exist, he would still be the only person in that group who has been tracking his daily methods, his daily actions, and his to dos since the beginning of that group. And he has not missed a single day. And that is something which I, next to that entire marathon, ultra marathon stuff, that I just love hearing about you, because it tells me that you are definitely another type of person. And I'm super proud to have you in my friend circle, my close friend circle. But that kind of dedication is unheard of. I mean, it's what champions are made of. I mean, it's what Kobe Bryant used to do. He used to practice every single day, twice a day, 3 times a day. He used to practice his free throws, his 3-pointers, his 2-pointers, his layups. He every single day, whether a good day, bad day, and he just said, "I'm gonna go. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. You know, I'm just gonna work out." And not everyone works like that, right? Not everyone is capable of doing it, the stuff that you're doing, but some people, it's kind of like baking the right kind of cake. Like taste buds are generally different, and what I like in my piece of cake and what you like might be different, but we both love cake, you know, that's the thing. So it's not about, and that's a point that I'm going to bring up in a second again. It's not about like copying one-on-one what one person is doing, because maybe your internal clock is running different and you need a different approach with the same methods to get your stuff done. I realized for myself is that tracking daily on a piece of paper has not worked for me. Why? Because I'm someone who's very much in my head and someone who's like very impulsive. Like I have a really, really great mind and I can remember things to the dots. Like I have a photographic memory where I can just call up things that happened years ago, sentence by sentence, word by word. And that's just something that I was gifted with, in big apostrophe marks. So what I have a set rule. Like I've set rules in my life, like brought up since I think like 3 years now, constantly running, where I have non-negotiables. I call them non-negotiables. I pick one task out of one area, out of the 4 areas of my life. I take my physical, I take my mental, I take my financial, and I take my emotional / spiritual. I kind of mix those two because I believe it's part of the same, same concept. I pick one task and I call it my non-negotiable. It is implemented and anchored into my life, and I'm not allowed to miss it. It's literally, I've been drilling myself over and over and over and over again over the last 3 years to have this as my non-negotiable. For example, for me, gym right now, because I'm going into kind of different direction with gym right now. I'm taking it way more professional, way more serious. I wanna become big. That's something which I'm gonna mention out later as well. But Michael actually motivated me to do something crazy, which I never thought I would do. But that's accountability, I would say, and that's what brothers would do. So gym for me is a non-negotiable. I have a rule that I need to hit the gym 3 times a week minimum. There has not been a week since 1.5 years that I haven't hit the gym for minimum 3 times a week. Even if I felt at the utmost worst, even if I had the longest days, even if I had a 16-hour working day, even if I got home at like 10 in the evening and I was completely drained and exhausted, if I know I only have 2 days left in the week and I know I've only been to training once, I go. And I don't care if it's going to be 2 o'clock when I finish, but I have to. And that's the way that I approach things. I don't have like a set of 10 things that I do, but I have one from each area. And I just try to become the best version of it that I can possibly, become. So that's like one thing when it comes to approaching habits and just sticking to the things. I think I have 2 mantras that I live by that have become so important. Um, One that has been there for quite some time already, that pretty much says, just do the things that you promised yourself that you would do, and just do them. Right? It's like whenever you say you're going to do something, do it. There is literally, like you probably said about the ultramarathon, if I tell myself that I will go on stage and become like participate in a bodybuilding competition, like I signed like a contract with myself. I'm like already the second after, I'm in my head like, fuck, what did I just do? I literally said yes to that. So, but simply, that's one mantra. Just do what you promised yourself that you would do and stick to that. That's ground rule. And I love Jocko Willink. I love that guy. And maybe some of you have seen, or maybe you haven't, but some of you have maybe seen that video of him where he just goes, good.
I love it.
If things come in your life, and life, this is the thing, you need to learn how to navigate your highs and pretty much base level your low times, because they're gonna happen, and it not happening is proving like it's impossible. Life is a constantly changing, a constantly evolving kind of organism. And thinking that it will always stay good is completely delusional. There will be rainy days, there will be foggy days, there will be stormy days, there will be thunder and lightning raining upon your life. There will be points where you think you don't even know how you're going to make it out of the situation, right? There are certainly situations, maybe not everyone has experienced them, but they are possible because we're talking about extremes. Moments where you're like, fuck, man, I don't know how I can imagine my life to continue like this. And maybe some have had dark thoughts like that. I certainly have. Um, but it's just coming to that understanding that each day is there to pass, and there will always be another day. And whenever you think you can't take it no more, or whenever a bad thing hits you and just said, like, hey, um, you didn't get that promotion that you were hoping for, Jocko Willick just looks at his buddies, looks at his friends, and just simply goes, is that so? Good.
Good.
Good. Maybe your girlfriend left you, or you've been dumped, or something bad happened. Good. Maybe you lost a big amount of money in some kind of stupid gambling that you did. Good. Because from every failure, from every setbacks, you can learn. You can just take the things that you've done wrong, like critically analyze what you have done, and then just try to improve and become better. Because like I said, the price for progress is pain. And I was always scared of pain because I was raised in an environment where I never really had to scare or fear anything, right? Like growing up in Luxembourg gives you a certain privilege. But of course, I wouldn't call that privilege spoiled privilege. I would call that privilege to the point where you are living in a mediocrity where you have everything that basically fulfills your basic needs, right? You have a roof, you have shelter, you have clothes, you have food. You maybe even have a car if you need it, right? Those kind of basic needs. So I was never in a situation where I was fearing or where I was scared of losing something. I never had pain present in my life like other people in like maybe third world countries, like war zones whatsoever it's happening. I never had that. So for me, the concept of pain was so new. And when it first happened to me, I remember being absolutely broken when I was living in Trier in my student home. And one of my best friends back in the days, he kind of did some really, really nasty things to me. And all of a sudden, I was being put in a financial situation where everything seemed to break down from one day to another, right? And I was panicking so much. I remember sitting in that apartment being completely smashed because one of my closest friends did did something really, really bad, like really horrible to me. And it put me in a financial situation, like giving up everything for that guy and then being betrayed like that put me in a situation that broke me so hard, right? But I realized shortly afterwards is that, or actually not shortly afterwards, it was quite tough struggling and I didn't know how to resolve it, but I just did the things I had to do and I realized my own strength because I was able to resolve it much faster than I thought I would. And now looking back, those painful situations were the things that, made me who I am today. Like the Tim or the Michael that is sitting in front of this camera talking through this microphone right now wouldn't be there if it wouldn't be for a painful situation like that. I can imagine, Michael, you can relate to that. And I can imagine apart from that ultra marathon, you have had situations in your life too, that you know pain can become your biggest teacher. And I believe that you don't become great through constantly winning. Greatness is not signified through the battles you have won, but rather the amount of battles that you have lost and gotten better from it and survived, made your way through. um, so yeah, man, I think those two things first and foremost are for me like the way that I roll and the way that I just function the best. You know, having non-negotiables and pretty much adapting that mentality of just good. Jocko Willick. I don't know if you have something to add to that or react to that. Yeah, but that's pretty much how I roll.
I love it, man. I love it 100%. That just give me chills right now. And I really love the approach of non-negotiables because, of course, I've been doing this for the past 6 years without missing a day now, tracking all these daily behaviors, actions, and habits. And I play in a sense where uh, I have like my expectations for the week, like how often do I want to run in a week? How often do I want to go to the gym? Um, how often during week do I want to read a book, whatever it is. But something I realized this year is that I've been stuck with it because it's one thing to, of course, I keep my standard beautiful, amazing, amazing. But right now, I don't feel like I'm able to raise my standard the way I would like to because I'm just in the motions of doing it over and over again. Of course, I can adjust them on a week to week basis. But now I've just this month, I've been thinking about how can I put my own sauce to it in a sense where I do it with more purpose. Okay, this habit, if I do it 3 times in a week, will allow me to reach that concrete goal that I set myself for the week. So, more specific, more concrete, more I'm going to a destination. I know exactly where I'm going instead of just, okay, I'm just heading out and I will find my way. So that's something I would like to refocus. And also your non-negotiable aspect of going about it is something that I could implement in my life as well, maybe more, instead of just looking at, okay, these are the things that I have on paper now. I have to do them or I get to do them. That I can maybe pick one out of every area where it's really like no margin, no room for even thinking about doing it. It's absolutely non-negotiable. That's something that I could start doing just from a mental standpoint. And yeah, I mean the Jocko Willink thing. It's I fucking love it, man. And like his book Discipline Equals Freedom. Like I totally agree with how he goes
Mm.
about it. And this, yeah, good. I think about it all the time where I'm just going through some stuff or just having a losing streak, which, if I'm being completely honest and transparent, this month has not been a good month for me, like on a lot of levels.
Appreciate the
But
honesty.
oh yeah, bro, it's been rough. It's been really really rough. And but sometimes I just get back home and like embrace the suck. Good, it's temporary. What can I learn from it? Ah, I see. It's gonna help me to raise that roof of mental resilience. So I just try to reframe it while also acknowledging that, of course, fuck, sometimes life really just sucks and everything seems to come around at the same time. But it is what it is. It's part of the game. It's why I actually enjoy and love this game and get to be the main character of my own movie, just like you do. So it's what I signed up for, the entire spectrum.
100%. And one more area that I want to touch before I want to move over to the practical side, because I want to give because I guess you have a lot of like practical things that like how to's, things that you do, how to journal, how to write down your DMOs, like what kind of things that you use, what's your kind of like method of operation for doing your mental game, because maybe some people will resonate with it. But one thing that I want to touch on before that is that I don't know if you know Mike Metzner. Have
Nope.
you ever heard of the name Mike Metzner? Well, Mike
Nope.
Metzner has been one of the, he's a bodybuilder and he was actually a physician. He is a nutritionist and a physician. And he was in the golden area of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was working at that time, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger and him were going on stage at the same time. And Mike Metzner is an absolute stud because he has an approach to the human body that is not just like, you just got to pound your weight, right? He goes about it from a very, very scientific, and actually you would love it. But then again, I don't know if that would be something that fits into your kind of spectrum of physical, mental, that kind of stuff. But I will send you a book over, and I will actually link it as well in the description of this podcast, same as like the compound effect. But Mike Metzner has an approach that actually opened my eyes a couple of weeks ago, because I'm currently working out 3 times, or I was working out around 5 to 6 times a week, right? Non-negotiable, because I know I want to just see what the limit of my body is. I know that I have a lot of strength, and as you said, we are not really aware of like what our limit is in the sense of like how far, or how, in my sense, heavy I'm able to go. So I read as well from the book of David Goggins. He said that whenever you reach your breaking point, whenever you think your body is actually at the point of exhaustion, you have reached 70% of your true potential. So that means it leaves you a gap of 30% that is still left untouched. So that's where that's the pinnacle zone, right? That's where you got to go. But Mike Metzner said, and that actually changed my view on training a little bit, because I was like going 5 to 6 times a week, sometimes even 7 times a week. I usually have like 1 to 2 days of rest, which I implement after training. But I was just pounding weight, and I was just going at it and going at it and going at it, and having like very strong isolated body part workouts 5 to 6 days a week, and just going heavy in the weights itself, just going heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. I'm currently closing in on like my PRs for pretty much all body parts, right? And I'm super proud because I've never been there, and it's interesting. But I listened to a video, or actually documentary, on Mike Metzner, where he said, your body doesn't grow in the period where you're training and working out. So he believes that it's insufficient to work out 5 to 6 to 7 times a week, because where your body actually grows and your muscle tendons, tissues grow stronger and bigger is in the time where you're resting. So it's much more efficient if you train 3 times per week and actually have a 48 to 72 hour window of rest in between, where you fully let your body rejuvenate, like recover from that heavy workout. But when you work out heavy, maximum an hour to an hour and a half, but like heavy compound movements, and then a 48-hour gap of rest in between. And I can tell you, I've been trying over the last 3 weeks this new method of training, because I love going to the gym. Like it's my non-negotiable that for me, it's automatic. But I've been trying it for the last 3 weeks, and I have to say that I actually improved my physical health and my strength level by about 60% over the last 3 weeks. Like
What?
I'm really, I'm really going to a point where I lift so heavy right now, and my body actually has the power and the willingness to do, which it didn't have before, even though I thought, hey, um I'm healthy, I'm on a very good peak state. I got my blood results like 2 weeks ago. I'm literally peak, like optimal in all cases. I was like, why is this working so much better than training 5 to 6 times a week? And I understand that there are periods where you have to go hard, and there's periods for self-reflection. And I guess this is the metaphor that you can implement for your life as well, is that there are times where, it's go time and you have to hustle. And there is times where you have to let growth come. And that growth comes through stillness, through self-reflection, through introvertive self-talk, through checking a little bit where you're at, where you want to go, and how you can adjust, right? So what you've mentioned before, I just wanted to add that towards that, is that same with the metaphor in the gym, is you need those 48 hours for your mind, for your body, for your soul to kind of like adjust a little bit. And in that time, it hurts. In that time, like the literally the muscle pain that I'm going through. I don't know the English word for muskelkater. I have to say, like the muscle
The
pain that you
soreness,
have,
muscle soreness.
the
Yeah.
soreness. And I've been working out for 1.5 years now on a really good level. My body is in so much pain. Like there's so much soreness within my body, because I just feel my tendons and my fibers like breaking and building together stronger. But that's exactly what it needs, right? You need these times of recovery, of just like, okay, so you want to go stronger, take some time for introspection, check where you want to go, adjust, because you're not doing this. And this is how I want to transition a little bit over to the next part of like practical implementation. The goal here is not to become a sprinter. Like I love the story of Usain Bolt, like training 20 years for a 9 second and 9.6 second run, right? You train 20 years for 9 seconds. This is like world class performance, but not everyone can do that. everyone can do that on a mental level, but you have to approach life, or like if you want to achieve anything in life when it comes to, work, your mental state, your physical state, your relationships, your career, whatsoever, you need to see life as a marathon. And the marathon needs to be worked on every single day, because even financial success doesn't happen overnight. If there's not a huge amount of luck involved, it takes time. So, and as we're still young, it's good to have expectations, but tame your expectations to a point where you still enjoy the journey. Because if you don't enjoy the journey as you're doing it, um, you maybe will be dissatisfied with what you have once you have it. And maybe, I mean, that's just my personal opinion. And maybe even once you reach the desired state, you will be dissatisfied with it, because in your mind, you already look for the next thing. Just my perspective, right?
That's big time, bro. That's big time. No, for real. For real.
So transitioning over a little bit, like most of the listeners are probably like entrepreneurs or people who just love personal development and just value themselves and just want to take something from this today, right? So people with an interest in personal and professional development, can you take the next couple of minutes to one book you've mentioned already quite often. I'm going to link it. But can you mention a couple of sources for your inspiration, like things that have helped you to grow massively? Books, audiobooks, podcasts, sources, courses, whatever you have in your mind that has helped you get to that point of understanding where you're at right now. And on a second note, so take that apart, what are some practical tips that you can give the listeners? What do you do on a daily basis that people can follow and people can copy for themselves to see, what works for them and what doesn't work for them?
All right, man. So I'm person development. For me, it's lifelong learning. It's something I do every day. I listen to podcasts every day. I don't read that much anymore. I got to be honest with that. I've skipped like a lot of books that I actually would like to read. Still listen to some audiobooks sometimes, but it's because I'm more in a phase of execution, of taking action, and not that mental masturbation. So that's also up to you, to yourself, to see when you feel like you need to refresh some knowledge or seek some more knowledge, and find that harmony between learning and then applying what you got to learn.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the podcast, here it depends which area is either of interest for me for that day,
Mm-hmm.
or what I really want to get better at, the field that I want to get better at. So I would divide it into um, health and fitness and well-being, and then maybe business and money, entrepreneurship, and then also the spiritual aspect, personal development. I can give just a few examples. For example, my favorite podcast right now, as far as entrepreneurship or money, building wealth, building businesses, is My First Million, with these two super successful entrepreneurs, American entrepreneurs. I think they're both American. But it's one of my favorite podcasts right now when it comes to just entrepreneurship. And then health, Andrew Huberman, of course, it's one of the go-tos, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would say, if I look maybe at my playlist right now, because there's so many podcasts that I just follow. Health, what else would we have with health? The Mother Health Show with Sean Stevenson. He's super, super good as well. Provides a lot of studies. It's like a lot of fact-based things. But yeah, I can give you just a few more examples that I can read right now in my application. The School of Greatness, Lewis House, the Ed My Dad Show, the Brad Lee Dropping Bombs podcast, Patrick Bet-David. He's my guy, man.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Bet-David. He's like one of the men that I really, really that get inspired from. He's like one of these examples where I'm like, he's got it. He's got it. The Lex Friedman podcast is very interesting as well and dives into a lot of different topics. The Nick Bear podcast, of course. The Mark Bell's Power Project. Do you listen to that podcast?
No.
Bro, you have to. This is non-negotiable. This is absolutely non-negotiable. You have to, okay?
What is it called?
I really want you to write it down right now. You have to. It's a
I'm-
power project. Mark
Power
Bell.
Project.
He is a legend in the fitness and bodybuilding and industry. You have to. It's not even negotiable.
Okay.
What else? We have the Millionaire Mindcast. I'm sorry that I'm just going about it right now.
I mean, I'm learning here. I'm literally being forced to like download certain things right now, which I'm doing actually right now.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you for taking the suggestion. Then
100%. Well, I'm kind of forced to, so.
Oh yeah, no, it's not even a discussion. It's not even a debate.
See, I followed it.
There you go. Followed
it now.
There you go. You will love it. But damn, like I could go on all day long. I have the Rich Roll podcast. I have the Impact Theory with Tom Bilyeu. First Things First with Mike Thurston. The Co podcast.
And I think this is the beautiful thing which I love about a healthy environment and a healthy friendship circle that brings you forward and that actually abdicates personal growth. Like, we don't only share these things with each other when we're on a podcast. Like, you have to imagine that whenever we are sitting together, like having a drink or eating something together or whatsoever, we share this stuff constantly. When there's something new, a new book that we read, a new podcast that we listen to, like we're sitting in a group setting, we're like, guys, have you? Yeah, I have. No, I haven't. What is it? No, you haven't. You have to, It's like, this is what I love. And I keep bringing it forward again, is that a healthy environment makes all of the difference. A healthy environment is literally the most important, a single most important thing that you can have in your life. And I can just tell you, if you're listening to this and you feel like, well, my friend circle is not like so great, they're like partying, they don't really look at stuff like that, and you feel a little bit alone. Like, honestly, in 2023, it has never been as easy as it is right now to make friends in that same category, that same niche. I was actually talking with a friend about this a couple of days ago. If you want to make true friends in that area that interests you, whether it be offline or online, go on social media, type in hashtag like motivation, hashtag inspiration. Go on your favorite your favorite personal development coach website like David Goggins. Look at the people who follow their content and just reach out to them if you ever feel like, okay, that person could be interesting, right? You can make online friendships just by simply sending a DM or starting a conversation through in the comment section of a post. Like, it's so easy to connect with people who are like-minded online, in an online space. But even when it comes to offline, wherever you are right now, go on the internet and type in like personal development groups, type in men's groups, type in mental resilience groups, type in whatever, like use keywords and then just type groups after that for Facebook, for whatsoever, in your surrounding with your city, and just take action. Just like, it might be weird getting into a new environment, but just do it, because trust me, there's nothing worse than a toxic environment around you that does nothing else but pull you down. And it's your responsibility, and it's literally the most important responsibility that you have in your life, to let go of people who do not serve your best interest. It is an imperative. If we would be stuck with the same people that we were stuck with a couple of years ago, we wouldn't be growing so much based upon our own perception, right? But like, changing and making my friend circle smaller, even if that means you're kind of like letting go of social credibility, you're letting go of like social status in certain environments or circles, that is totally fine. But because I rather have one good friend that supports me, that helps me improve, and that I can call my buddy for life, rather than having 100 friends that are just fake. Honestly, it's an health imperative to have a really good environment, because if you have good people around you, this is what happens. Like, you're literally being forced to download a podcast that you don't even know with like 3 guys that are standing there shirtless, ripped, and you're like, what the fuck is this? But I don't even care what it is because Michael says that it's good. So I press on following and get my notifications right away. And I will probably, once this podcast finishes, listen to it because I follow the advice of friends that actually bring you forward. So I highly, highly, highly appreciate you, my man. I know it's been again like 1.5 hours, and I mean, as you're one of the first guests, I don't want to exaggerate it. I mean, my goal is to have long form content, and my goal is as well to have a studio where we can sit together, where we can have a drink, where we can sit in front of each other, have a cool equipment, and just talk for hours. Because that's my favorite form of content. Because even now, I know already that I'm going to have you on for a second, third, fourth time because we didn't even touch on your 7 years of veganism. We didn't even touch on so many aspects of who you are. We didn't even touch on like that essence, or we even just surface scratched mental resilience. So, my man, bro, I love you and I love spending time with you. I love having you on my podcast. It's an absolute honor to have you on today. And I think myself, such as like everyone like listening right now, I hope you got some good value from that. But before we are slowly closing it off and we're coming to the end, I have one question for you. Okay. And I asked Daniel this last time, and I love just hearing it because I've been personally part of your development over the last couple of years, and we keep each other accountable. Being and looking at the person that you are today, right? At the age that you have and the socioeconomic environment that you're in right now, what is one thing? And in brackets, it can be more than one thing. What is one thing that you would tell the younger self that is struggling right now, like trying to figure out what this world is about, that younger version of you? What would you tell that version of you that you now know that you didn't know back then, and that can actually potentially help people out there who are listening right now?
Wow. Wow. That's another great question. Let me reflect on it for a moment. One of the great things about life is that every 6 months, or like once or twice a year, I get to reflect on myself and just going through this maturity process. And I get to laugh at myself as I'm getting older, let's say that. Get to laugh at myself because of my perspectives on lives and just my attitudes about certain things, and maybe falling into the trap of being too extreme in some things. And maybe the answer that I'm going to give right now is not the answer that I would have given a few days ago, or a few weeks ago, a few months ago, but it's something that I just realized this week. And that is the thing that you touched on as far as your environment. It is an absolute imperative to not only have the people around you with quality relationships that are maybe on a similar path as you, but what helps a lot as well is having the diversity. So in that sense, what I mean is it's great to have a friend that maybe is more of on a different path, but is still positive. So let's say that I'm just going to pick a few extremes. I have some friends who are maybe more conservative or capitalistic, but also I have some friends who are more like into on the left side of things and more climate change activities and stuff like that. I have friends who are super happy and at peace at living in their 9 to 5s, but also have friends who love to build businesses and are entrepreneurs. I have friends who are atheists, but also have friends who are religious and spiritual. I have friends who love lifting heavy weights, going to the gym, getting super big, but also have friends who are not that big, but they're great at running and cardio stuff. So as I'm having these conversations with people from different fields of life, but who are still good to me and who I can give something to, I realized that when I was younger, I had the tendency to get stuck in an extreme of things, which made me blind to my blind spots, and that stunted my growth. So right now, I thought that I was super open-minded, and it's good, and it's very good to have your principles, to have your values, to stand on what you stand for, which for me, for myself, like I have a lot of controversial opinions. I have a lot of things that I stand for, but that doesn't mean that I'm totally closed to other perspectives and other opinions. And it actually helps me, and it brings me great humility. And sometimes I just look at myself and I'm like, man, you sort of lost some humility. Maybe there's some blind spots that you haven't entertained in a while. And it's good if you keep a circle, a diverse circle, which helps you to broaden just your perception of life in general. So that's a very raw message right now that I was just thinking about for the past few days.
Mhm.
And I think that's the first thing that comes to my mind as far as that.
I love it.
What I would share. Yeah.
That's why I love that question, because it just triggers people to think, reflect, and actually go deeper. Because I like I've had in the past, over the last couple of years, I've asked the question so many times, and whenever people, because they usually have like an awesome quote that they heard just a couple of days ago or recently, and then they start with, well, very simple. I would say, and in the middle of the sentence they stop and they're like, actually, would I want to say that to myself a couple of years back? Would that actually mean something to that person who's listening? So they always then reflect, think, take time, and the answer that comes out is so profound, and it helped them in that moment now, in the present moments, to get that message even deeper, right? So that's why I love it, bro. I love the time that we spent together. I thank you so much for your time, for the time that you brought today, for your presence, for your humble words, your inspiration, just giving us insights into your life. If people would want to reach out to you or get into contact with you somehow, where can people find you? Because I know you're like kind of like a social media pusher. You're not really like that much in that world, but where can people find you, man? How can people get in contact with you?
I would say LinkedIn. Just look up my
Mm.
name. LinkedIn. I'm totally open to new connections, and maybe one of my email addresses from my podcast. My podcast is the Growth Never Stops podcast, and my email is growthneverstopspodcast@gmail.com. I would say these are,
Growth
yeah.
growth never stops podcast at gmail.com. I'm going to put that in the description as well, in case people have questions, in case people want to reach out and talk about,
Sure.
your experience in whatever field. But like I said, I mean, this is only one of many conversations, because as long as I don't have a professional studio set up where I can invite people and be like, okay, we don't have to stand in front of a laptop for like 3 hours now, but we can actually sit, have a drink, maybe whatever, have a juice, and then talk and talk and talk. Until we have that, I want to keep it rather short, right? Because it makes it much more interesting to have like a cool setup. So, yeah, man. Any last words from your part? Something that you want to give, something that you want to say before we finish it off here?
Two things. Maybe first of all, for the audience, my favorite speech of all time is from motivation speaker Eric Thomas, and it is "You owe you." I've listened to it probably hundreds of times, and it still gives me goosebumps. So make sure you check that out. I'm a big fan of taking full responsibility for your own life. And of course, motivation is, in my opinion, it's crap. It's just temporary, but it's still good to have like some sources of inspiration. And then it's up to you. Don't underestimate what you are capable of. You are strong. Like, you are the winning sperm out of, I don't know how many sperm cells. So just think about it for a second. The fact that you are here alive, it's literally a miracle for all of us. You are strong, and don't underestimate yourself. And then for you, bro, for you, man, I don't even know where to start, but I'm really proud of you. We've known each other for good 6 years, 7 years, and just witnessing your growth on all levels and all the things you've been through that the audience probably has no idea about. You are a great example.
whether they are self-inflicted or not.
That as well. And I appreciate you for keeping it real like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you are a great example of mental resilience as well, whether you see it or not, but I see 100%. And I think that's also something you can do on your own, like an episode on that topic. Don't underestimate that trait of you as well. And sending much love. I love just the companionship, the relationship that we have, keeping it real, raw talk, accountability, not being, we have this space where we can call each other out, where we can still have like while still keeping a positive and a growth space. And it's not something that it's easy to have and to cultivate with everyone. So just keep it up, stay consistent. Congratulations on launching this podcast. People can't even imagine how much work and thought that is being invested into this kind of project. And it's the start of something big. I can sense it. I can feel it. And you're just getting started, man. So best of luck going forward. I'm always around, and much love, man.
Let's go.
Woo!
Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you having you on. This is the first round out of many, as you said, and you are right. I will be having, because I want to keep it real. I want to keep it Tim-like, and Tim just always likes to keep it real. There will be some deep episodes where I probably have to jump over my own shadows, because I'm not afraid of sharing what has worked and what hasn't worked for me. And probably one of the next episodes will be as well the same kind of episode that I had on your podcast, if you remember that story that happened 3 years ago. Yep. Yeah, man. So that's a big, massive part of my identity, and I'm not afraid to share it, and I can't wait for you to listen to it and give me your honest feedback. My man, it was an absolute pleasure again. I thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for spending the time, and I would say we've had your last words. This being said, see you in the next one.